Hi all, I'm going to give folks a couple minutes to just get in, but I wanted to start the webinar and welcome everyone. You see my Aspire Tower back here. What an exciting day for the agency. My task today was to share some of the research that was done in advance of the brand launch to inform our decision-making process. And so what I'm going to try to do all of our research as quickly as possible, leaving some time for questions. If I don't get to all the questions in the allotted time, because we do only have 20 minutes, I will certainly answer those questions to all the participants in an email following the presentation. So I'm going to just share my screen and get started. Because as you can imagine, there was a ton of research that went into this project. And what I will say is, having worked for a number of agencies who have decided that they would like to rebrand their organizations or explore rebranding, investing in research is so important. And so I just say kudos to the agency for investing in this way. So I'm hoping that you can all see my screen and that maybe someone would just type in a question and say yes so that I can see, so that I know that you can see my screen. I'd hate to go through this and you not to be able to see my screen. So essentially, like I mentioned before, okay, it looks like yes. Like I mentioned before, we did a ton of research. We did in-depth interviews with leadership, stakeholders, and parents. These were 90 minutes to 2-hour sessions with various stakeholders in and outside of the organization. We did 4 focus groups, 3 of which included DSP staff and those direct service professionals. And then we did an online survey of all employees. We had 322 employees participate in that survey. You'll notice this data is weighted based on race, gender, state, and age. The unrated results were disproportionately whiter than IPPI's overall employee population. And so we weighted the answers so that we would have a true representation of our agency. Our research objectives were to hear from you, to hear from staff and stakeholders about the work that they do, how they talk about the work that they do in their own words, and to ensure that we had a good perception of points of pride and pain, areas for improvement and hopes for the future. We wanted to understand the perception of our organization, its culture, and how we could best move forward across the agency. We wanted to explore and quantify employees' awareness and excitement of upcoming changes, including their openness to a rebrand and a name change. All of this information, you know, the hope was that this research would become the cornerstone of the new brand. So here's some of what we learned from our qualitative research. We learned that the brand could really be our opportunity to hit the reset button on communication. We heard from staff and stakeholders outside of the organization that people wanted more communication from leadership of the organization. We saw the rebrand as an opportunity to position ourselves as a unified agency across states. We saw this as an opportunity to incorporate lobbying as for staff pay as part of our strategic vision. And the research also told us it was really important to staff and stakeholders that we get out front of the perception that our agency was rebranding because something bad happened or that we were trying to hide something. We want to build, and that's certainly what we've tried to do, to build on messages and concepts and frames that our staff told us was important to them, that our stakeholders told us were important, that we have an environment that's fun and welcoming, that we have a workplace that's supportive and provides opportunity for growth, and that we have an approach that's people-focused, where we put people at the center of a very transformational process. One of the things that we learned is that there's real excitement and appetite for change here at the agency, and that became sort of the launching pad for the rest of our research and also the development of our brand. And if you stick around for our 1 o'clock session, you'll learn more about that, about the development and the creative process of the brand. So here are some of our survey results. Across several metrics that we tested in the survey, employees expressed satisfaction. And you'll see I left IPPI in here because this was really a moment in time. This research happened last summer, and this is how people felt last year. The important thing to remember is, look at someone just delivered me cake. The important thing to remember here is that this was a snapshot in time, and we will certainly be doing this research again. We want to see how we develop and grow over the ages. So here's what we learned last summer from employees of IPPI. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion about IPPI? We had 40% of folks who said they felt very favorably about IPPI, while 39% felt neutral and 17 were neutral and 3 were unfavorable. I won't bore you by reading all of these. I'll certainly send this research deck to everyone post meeting as well. While employees are felt broadly favorably about IPPI, there was a softness to their support, with DSPs and managers more likely to feel neutral or somewhat favorable to IPPI. This was a really important data point for us. What we learned is that DSPs and people of color feel less favorably about IPPI than white managers and leadership within the organization. And this has been an important data point as we've moved forward in both the development of our brand and the future vision for the organization. The important work that we've commenced around our DEI work, our diversity, equity, inclusion work, was informed not just by what's happening currently in our world, but also by what our employees told us last summer was their experience. This pattern also extends to employees' perceived value at IPPI, with leadership and white employees more likely to say they are valued a lot by IPPI. Employees are very satisfied with their immediate supervisors relative to IPPI's leadership and its communication. Dissatisfaction with compensation is driven most intensely by DSPs. As you'll remember, one of the things that we worked on last summer was wage increases for frontline employees. This was a direct result of the research that we did last summer. Employees do not feel like they are valued a lot by IPPI, are significantly less likely to feel satisfied with their supervisors, with leadership, and with IPPI's communication. So you can see that a person's position and their feeling of value directly impacts the rest of their experience at our agency. Managers are widely recognized as an important driver of employee satisfaction, and many IPPI employees bring up good managers when talking about a time when they felt happy and supported at IPPI. We know through our own experience and also research that's been done around employment that your experience of your manager shapes the employee experience. And so our managers at Aspire Living and Learning have a huge responsibility, and we have a huge responsibility to ensure that they're supported and have the tools and resources that they need to support their teams and their staff. Managers can reinforce communication from leadership, which a majority of employees last summer said that they wanted more of. Email, in-person, their app are employees' preferred means of communication. You'll also remember that last summer we worked to expand agency email to all employees of the agency. This was, again, a direct reflection of what you told us was important to you. We tested a variety of incentive programs and programs that our agency could use to pursue for our employees. All were rated highly favorably by employees, but you can see that the top 4 or so that ranked the highest were all about wage. And again, this is something that has been a strategic direction for our agency, is to increase pay for our frontline employees. So here's where we stand. Our employee attitudes. There's certainly a softness to employee attitudes towards the agency, driven by a hesitancy towards IPPI leadership and communication with employees. On a whole, however, IPPI is viewed favorably by employees, more so than we see, and the we here is the research agency that helped us with this. The employee research that they've done across industries similar to ours shows much more softness or less favorability than IPPI that Aspire has seen. So this is really encouraging for us, and was one of many reasons why we took the next steps with the rebrand. So let me go into the findings. I'm running out of time, and I'm just going to check my questions. I don't see any questions yet. So we asked employees how excited they were about the next steps for the agency. And while folks were excited, there weren't many who really knew what was happening. And that goes back directly to the idea that staff really wanted more communication from leadership and from managers. So people are excited, although not many could say why. As we move forward, it'll be important to inform IPPI employees about what's next, to assuage any concerns that a small segment of employees definitely had about this supporting the rebrand. So over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, I hope that you felt like we've shared a lot of information about the upcoming changes. Again, this is an important part of our story, and I think one that we want every employee to own. And so sharing the changes that were coming, and sort of the path forward is a goal of this rebrand. We don't want anyone to feel left out of this process, because this is a brand that belongs to all of our employees. So in our focus groups, employees identified a range of benefits that could come from integrating across states, everything from making ourselves better ambassadors for the company to our own professional development. So these were just some of the things that were brought up in the focus groups that people felt like, if we are a unified agency, my work can benefit, the agency can benefit from this unification. Employees offered a wide variety of name suggestions for the new IPPI. So you can see some of the ideas that came out of our brainstorming. IPPI employees can be a key part of communicating our updated brand. 2/3 of employees are willing to share information about the organization with their own networks. So I just think this is one of the most interesting statistics from the rebrand research that we did. 66% of IPPI employees are willing to share something positive if asked, yet only one in five employees have ever been asked to share information with their outside networks. So we're gonna work really hard to ensure that you have the tools that you need to share this story with your networks. The work that you're doing here at the agency, the work that this agency does in the communities, whether you're an employee or a stakeholder, you have a story to tell, and this brand, we want this brand to belong to you, and we want the brand story to belong to you. Here's a little bit about the messaging that we tested during the research. IPPI employees prioritize conveying compassion, uniqueness, and transformation over community and creativity in the IPPI's new name. So no matter what we asked employees, no matter what the name ends up being, how important is it to you that IPPI's name conveys the following? And you told us that compassion, empathy, uniqueness, and transformation were most important. Then we tested 6 statements following our focus groups, and the messages of transformation, small victories, and recognizing uniqueness rose to the top. Then we took it a step further, and we did you might remember, a highlighting exercise where we asked you to highlight the words that you were attracted to and to sort of cross out or put in red words that had negative connotations or that didn't have positive associations with. And here's what you came up with. The message of transformation was the resounding winner here, although people focused and creative all had general appeal to the masses of survey participants. And then again, even high quality community and experience all resonated with folks who took the survey. Then we took branding concepts that focused on individually tailored services, growth, and transformation, and we tested those. And those were the ones that wrote discovery, growth, and transformation. So here was the recommendation from our research firm around, based on the research and based on what we know of competitors and the industry as a whole, we wanted to highlight uniqueness. You know, our employees gravitated to the ideas of inclusivity, positivity, and optimism when framing the new brand of the agency and the work that they do currently. We wanted to incorporate the importance of transformational moments, big or small. It's what employees told us motivates them every day to do the work that they do. And it should definitely be part of our new name and brand. And talk about IPPI's people-focused creative approach. This should be less about being the provider of choice with decades of experience and more about the tailored interventions that work by discovering the right fit for each person that we serve. So here's how we sort of put it together in terms of what we learned from employees. And this statement actually, you probably recognize some of these words from the presentations this morning and from our new branded video. This really became the cornerstone that we used in the creative process that you'll hear about at 1 o'clock. Small victories, success stories, and transformational moments are what motivate us every day. We take great personal pride and satisfaction in witnessing and participating in these milestones, which we make possible by thinking outside of the box and using a people-focused, compassionate, and creative approach. This approach is not one size fits all. We recognize that each person we serve is fully unique and has their own individual hopes, goals, and path forward. Through tailored interventions, we are able to help each and every person in our community discover their passions, unlock unrealized potential, grow, develop, and transform. So, sorry for the scanning. That's really the basis of this new brand. We used this research at every step of our decision-making process. When we had multiple options on the table, we kept coming back to this research. And I have to say, I'm just really impressed by this organization for taking a data-driven approach to the decision-making that happened around this brand. So now I'm going to move to the questions. And so if you have any, just feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll do my best to answer them. So this one is coming from Isaac. What do you think moving forward will be the most factor for motivating staff in this transformational brand to aspire living and learning? You know, I hope that this brand feels more representative of what we do as an agency. Certainly I know that talking about the Institute of Professional Practice with my family and friends, it was a difficult bridge between the name of the organization and what we do for the communities that we support. My hope is that everyone feels their work represented here, whether you're working with children in an early intervention center or in a school setting, or working with adults seeking connection and community in the employment space or in a residential setting. I hope that this name and this brand feels fresh and updated to you, and that it's one that you can feel proud of talking about. I think IPPI was a great kept secret, and I think what we want to see happen is external pivoting. We want to tell people about the work that we do. We want to share the transformational moments that we're making possible every day. You know, in my work, it'll be telling our story to donors and to the media. Isaac, in the work that you do, it'll be talking to new employees who are just coming on board and learning about how to do their jobs well. So my hope is that you see your work in this brand, and that it is something that you can own and a story that you can tell to your networks. So I hope that answered your question. I don't see any other questions in the chat box, so I'm going to, since we are at time, I'm going to end the session. But I want to say thank you for tuning in. It's great to be here with you today. And if you're around in 10 minutes, you want to join us for the creative, the rebirth of a brand, we'd love to have you. We'll be on with 2 of our consultants talking about sort of the creative process behind the rebrand. And I'll be moderating that discussion. So look forward to seeing you then. Thanks so much. And I'll make sure to send out this deck to everyone who was here today. Thank you.